There's a Deepseek crack in AI, in the US at least. Part of it due to lack of a startup mentality, maybe? Part of it hype, misinformation. Whether or not that's true, the Chinese legal courts are that far ahead of us in AI, almost 5 years ahead of us. In fact, they've given AI copyrights to an AI app in 2019 and a person who created a picture in 2023, along with a few other cases I'm going to go in because I'm Declan Dunn and this is the AI Optimist. China builds better AI for less and solves copyrights too? Wow, this China news that we're getting makes us feel like all our GPTs are sort of behind, but it's much more than that. In fact, all of AI is so much more than GPTs. But even in this context of Deepseek creating for a minimal amount, apparently, and apparently minimal technology, the same thing, I don't know what we can do about that. What we can do about AI copyright is start realizing that the Chinese system is looking a little better than ours in one certain way and showing how we can generate copyrights for AI assisted work as well as AI generated from an AI app itself. You don't think it's possible? Let's look at the logic and what's going on and why our legal system is stuck in the US years behind, clogged in litigation from really big players and a few little ones brave enough to warrant the 3 to 5 year journey to maybe get a copyright for work that clearly shows human involvement. So let's go through 3 cases of AI copyright, one in the US that was denied and one in China that was granted for the same thing that the US was denied. And then at the end, I'll share with you the AI app that actually got a copyright for the content it created. The Jason Allen copyright case is the most famous. You see this painting if you're watching the video, and I've shown it to you before, but let me give you a little background because Jason was denied a copyright for this image. And we're going to go through why he was denied, what the court looked at, and lead you into what the Chinese courts took a little bit differently. But let's jump into what the court saw with Jason. What they saw was an artist who won an award at the Colorado State Fair in 2022 for this painting. But when he went in for a copyright, it was clearly done by AI. And as far as the US law is concerned, AI means no copyright because it's all human authorship. It's all drawn from the time we did books. Can you imagine them even trying to conceive of a creative person like Jason Allen who can code, who can do graphic design and UI and deliver it all in a gaming interface? It just didn't exist. So while we're trying to apply it, understand why this is frustrating because Jason goes in and says, hi, I created this out of approximately 624 prompts. Wow, okay. He then took this into Photoshop and did some tweaking and editing in there, adjusting various parts of the picture. He also used Gigapixel AI, which is a real, I've used that software. It's a professional photography software that can allow you to do certain things in resizing, refining of images, often used by really top photographers and visual artists. And then he brings it out, does all this work, and is denied a copyright simply because there's a line down the middle here. You are human or you're not. Nothing non-human gets it. And I understand that. And right now in the US law, unlike China, what I'm about to share with you is happening in lower courts. This is not happening in higher courts. So that's one of the reasons Jason Allen's case is so disturbing because it's so simple. The man did so many prompts and so much work on this image. And to deny him a copyright because the old law says that is why I've told you time again in my previous episodes, copyright can't keep up and we can't sue our way out of it. So let's bring it to Jason. We're looking at him, and just because he does this and shows this level of work, he is not given it. This is not shown as human creativity or originality, mostly because AI is involved and the court has no way of knowing what AI is considered, what an output is. Can AI get it? Are the developers going to get it because they're the platform that actually creates the output? Oh, in the end, Jason Allen, no copyright. And he's continuing to pursue it because as we go to the next copyright that was granted, I don't personally believe it's even the same quality as what Jason created, but again, taste is in the eye of the beholder. It's certainly not like I'm the judge of the whole painting or photo world. But when you look at the kind of effort Jason put in, if he had done this in China, I'm sure he would have gotten a copyright. So at the end of 2023, I did an early AI Optimist podcast about this Li versus Lu lawsuit in China in a special court dealing with these kind of issues in this new world of AI, but even just the internet. So the context of this case is this is held in what's called Beijing Internet Court. Beijing Internet Court was invented 5 years ago. There's the website if you're watching the video. And it was done to decide these sort of weird decisions that digital world brings up, but also to bring up e-litigation where you can actually fill in a form online and say, my copyright has been violated. They have a process to be able to judge it. So this is a lower level court, certainly not where Jason Allen is in the US or even in China. There's 4 levels of courts above this. This is special, but that's the point. So is what we're deciding. And they said it's all a case by case basis. So nothing has to be impacting, but we can start looking at these issues. Since 2018, they've done this. And on the next stop, I'm going to show you how they said no, and then it was said yes in 2019 to AI apps getting copyrights. But let's rewind, zoom out, and get back to Li versus Lu. Li creates an image in Stable Diffusion. That image you see here, if you're watching, is called Spring Breeze Brings Tenderness. Beautiful picture. And let's look at why this court, again, this is an internet court, so it's looking this like, should we grant copyrights, again, on a case-by-case basis? So here's the case for Li. Li goes to Stable Diffusion. The court said that was actually an artistic choice using Stable Diffusion, and it makes so much sense. Think about Midjourney, or Leonardo, or HeyGen, or any of a million other image generators. They all have their own data, their own way of handling things, and their own content that comes out. So the choice of the platform was an artistic human choice. The next thing that came up were the 150 so prompts, and it was interesting that they were impressed. These are judges who also, like probably most US judges, aren't that well versed in AI, admittedly. Who is? So the judges looked at this and they saw the 30 prompts and the 120 what are called negative prompts, what not to do, how not to make this picture look, versus 30 prompts that would say things like Japan Idol, cool pose, viewing at camera. Obviously, if on profile, that's a very different view. And film grain, which sort of tied into the way the look of it is. Now, if you've ever looked into Midjourney or anything, you're going to really appreciate this, but I'll show you some things just to give you a context of what he did next. Because it was after those 150 prompts. If he had just come out with that work, I'm not sure he would have got the copyright from what I could read in the legal document. But because he took the next step and he started tweaking the parameters, and I'm showing a screen here, it's a little fuzzy, but you can adjust various settings within each of these image generators. I can do it in Midjourney with a number of different settings of how chaotic, how wild I want it to be, how much I want it to look this way. There's literally settings. Here's some I'm showing you right in front that can show you actually how we create images and how we make them look better. Like the film look, the grain he used, that could also be used as a type of film that has a way it visually looks, or a type of camera that takes a particular photo. And before you're getting all overwhelmed, that's why he got the copyright, because these choices are human. They are complex. And that's why people like Jason Allen, who are super talented, come out with way better content out of AI that shouldn't be compared to what other people do. So those choices he made met the level of, quote, intellectual creations, unquote, by the Beijing Internet Court. And by granting him the copyright, it was a pretty simple case. We also have to keep this sort of down to earth. Yes, China's way ahead, but they're also smart by allowing these small cases to come in and not deciding them only on the big players. Why? Because Li posted this to social media with his watermark. Lu took the watermark off and posted it on a different social media site. Therefore, the court found that Li's copyright was violated. He has an AI copyright because he created it AI assisted and was given, he created it AI assisted and was given the copyright, but the only punishment was take that down. Or, don't do that. There wasn't really a monetary thing to it that I could find, and I haven't seen an appeal. So while this is really an early case, this is a landmark case because it actually deals with what we're dealing with. But what the Chinese court did said, this is a case by case basis. We don't really know, but this makes sense, and this shows that there's human involvement. So if they can see human involvement, as you can clearly see from Jason Allen, in my opinion, and the level of work he put out, why aren't we granting copyrights? And this is a shout out not just to the US, the UK, Australia. The only one so far is doing it is China, and they're creating something virtual to simulate what goes online because the court system really wasn't designed for it. I'm not saying they're perfect, but it's sort of a Deepseek legal moment, don't you think? So now we covered that a human working with AI can't get copyright. What if an AI app itself creates art and gets a copyright? Is that possible? Well, I found two yeses. Now in China, and I'm going to cover the second one for you in just a second because we have a case in the US called Thaler versus Perlmutter, Stephen Thaler, Thaler. And his AI that he's created for over 30 years has created its own art. And he says that the AI should be the author, the owner, has a business around it, should be able to do it just like they actually do in the US Patent Office. Now, let's go back a little bit in the time tunnel because in China, obviously creating the internet court, they started dealing with this issue first in 2019. So the Shenzhen Tencent Computer System Company Limited versus Shanghai Yingjun Technology Company Limited, apologies for my Mandarin. So Tencent creates automated stock market reviews as many information systems do. And this was published on Yingjun's information site and media. So the case was, are we going to be able to protect this as AI? Copyright. Now, normally the human only equation would come in, right? Even in the previous case, the Beijing Internet Court, which was a little lower than the court we're talking about now. This is actually a normal court that you and I would go into, not a special internet court. They found that Tencent's originality had gone in, that the content did have elements of this, but the fact that the AI created it, well, who created the AI? See, this is where you get these brilliance because it had to be people. This stuff can't just happen, even though we pretend copyright law is only human beings, it has to bring in people. So they found that the AI was created by people. Therefore, they are the authors and the owners, and they upheld a lawsuit. Nothing major here. And all these suits I'm mentioning are very landmark, but they're small. And kudos to the Chinese courts because they're figuring it out, but they're not trying to make a multi-million, $100 billion Getty Images versus Stability AI lawsuit the central measuring piece. They're bringing it down on the other side, and they're allowing people to do e-litigation online. So let's look at this. Should AI assisted work or even AI directly generated work get a copyright? What do you think? Is it really saying there's no human involvement? And if we do give the copyright, who gets it? The person like Jason Allen who put in the prompts, or like Lee? Should the platform get it? Like in the AI case with Tencent in China, where it created original content because the people who created it helped it create original content, and therefore as humans could get that? Or is it the US version that no human, no copyright? Let's explore that. So the questions really come down to two. Can any AI generated content, AI assisted or not, ever get a copyright? And who owns the copyright? Remember, authorship and ownership from episode 78, very key. Who owns it and who created the originality? There's interesting nuances. Human involvement. How much do people do? Let's compare Jason Allen, 624 prompts, editing, and a background, which I know law doesn't matter, but if you're that highly skilled, that should impact the decision of whether your output is going to be better. Because I could say every major photographer, artist I've met who uses AI does things that people who never did those crafts, those arts, could ever do. Because they know what type of film, they know what type of camera, they know the look, the lighting, They know how to make it look alike. They know painting, perspective, human anatomy if they're a painter. This is human involvement. Originality. Now that's a huge question because we have this soup of content pulled in, but what's pulled out rarely looks anything like it, though it can be hacked. And yes, that can happen. But if you're doing such a detailed work to get out something that already exists, or are you doing a detailed work like Jason Allen to create something new? Intent should matter. So originality isn't just that the AI has all this. The argument that artists have to draw on that all the time, they copy people, their styles, it's not perfect, but there is a way to measure human involvement, again, like China, on a case-by-case basis. Legal work. Was this act done with people trying to fit within the law the best they could? In Tencent's case, they tried to take a look at these things before they put them into action. So whether they're right or not, we don't know yet. This is new. We need to be a little patient. But it makes so much sense to give an AI assisted copyright, maybe make it different. Do things like make it shorter, give the duration a little bit less, give the protection in digital versus print versus using in films or something where real money is involved. Also make it based on the amount of activity it creates. Because if we make ads from impressions, we can certainly monetize creators by the content that they create, the credits that they create for themselves. If nothing else, just an exchange of technology to use it. But what about AI apps creating it? Should an AI app get a copyright? That is an interesting thing because then we can't use copyright because it's not human. And no matter how much we argue, in the end of the day, it has to be human. And that, I think, is the problem. We now need to recognize collective intelligence because it is all human intelligence. To say it's non-human in AI, yeah, it broke down to tokens, but the original creations were all from us. And even if it makes up stuff, shouldn't it be able to copyright it? Originality. Is it output similar to somebody else's? Is there an economic impact on someone else? Those are the three things to keep in mind. The legal argument against copyright is the AI generated images are not human authorship and can't be granted a copyright. Hey, if the author selects roles and images and moving stuff around and parameters and prompts like that, doesn't even make sense. Is it sufficient originality? And what does that word even mean? Because it's not like there's not tons of copycat work that comes out of the Copyright Office. All right? So yeah, it could be a horrible thing where all of our efforts go out there, content gets diluted. It gets so bad that even the AI gets worse because all the content is AI generated, supposedly. The fact is, we're sitting here on a new frontier, and while China's encouraging people to try, we're telling people no, and you better have deep pockets and lots of lawyers or we're going to sue you out of business because there's no way we can have a copyright because it was only when we only had humans. There's a new intelligence. Maybe it's super, maybe it's artificial, maybe it's collective intelligence, but it's here. And to deny copyright is to deny its existence. And while I don't want the creators to get away with this and have all their work stolen, no way. We should compensate them for moving that in. But when an artist like Jason Allen puts that much effort into it, creates this work, take a look at this again if you're watching. This is really good. This is not something that came in a few prompts, even there. Maybe a few prompts is all some really brilliant prompter needs to get that image. Depends on what they're going to be doing, and you could give copyrights at different levels for sale versus distribution on the internet. See, there's solutions, and all I want to say is you're all freaking out because Deepseek created a GPT that's as good as what we have for less money, supposedly. China's creating a better system for people to be creative with AI. They've done it since 2018, with decisions in 2019, 2023. You don't even hear anyone talking about it. And these are the only granted AI copyrights in the world. And yes, they're small, but they're smart. Why aren't we in the West? Why do we want to keep fighting it? Oh yeah, because all the copyrights are owned by the money and the lawyers that are going to settle this in 5 or 10 years while the rest of us just sit on the sidelines. Hey everybody, let's copy China in this way. They are leading. and you don't really need to look too deeply into it. They're trying to do something different.